She sat in the cold metal chair with dried blood crusting her knuckles and truth burning in her throat. They thought one night of interrogation would break her, but they were wrong. 20 years of silence had prepared her for this moment. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry wasps as the door opened again. She knew what they wanted to hear, but she also knew that speaking the truth after all these years would destroy everything they had built on lies. Dawn was breaking through the barred window, and with it came her decision. Some truths are worth dying for. The woman they called Elena Marchesi had stopped counting the hours somewhere around 3 a.m. Time moved differently in basement interrogation rooms where the lights never dimmed and the air tasted like copper and fear. She had learned this during her first arrest 15 years ago, when she was just a university student handing out pamphlets about workers' rights. Back then, she had cried and begged and told them everything they wanted to know. Back then, she believed that truth and cooperation would set her free. She was younger then, stupider. Now, at 37 years old, with silver threading through her dark hair and scars mapping her body like a warrior's resume, she understood that truth was a weapon, and silence was armor. The regime had taught her that through every arrest and every beating and every friend who disappeared in the night. They had taught her well. The door opened, and Detective Kovac walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. He set one in front of her like an offering, like they were old friends catching up instead of predator and prey locked in a dance they had performed countless times before. He was tired, too. She could see it in the shadows under his eyes and the way his shoulders sagged beneath his expensive suit. "You look terrible, Elena," he said, sitting across from her. His voice was almost gentle, almost kind. She knew better than to trust it. "You should see the other guy," she replied. Her voice came out rough like gravel being dragged across concrete. They had not given her water in hours. Another technique. Keep them uncomfortable. Keep them off balance. Keep them desperate for even small mercies. Kovac smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. Always with the jokes, he said. "Even now, even after everything. You know we found the documents, right? The flash drive was in the lining of your jacket, exactly where our informant said it would be. We have everything, Elena. Names, dates, financial transactions, proof that the Minister of Justice has been embezzling public funds for 8 years, proof that the election results were falsified, proof that the mass graves outside the Capitol contain civilians, not insurgents. We have it all." "Then why do you need me?" she asked. She knew the answer, but she wanted to hear him say it, wanted to watch him twist the truth into whatever shape served his masters. Kovac leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Because we need you to recant," he said softly. "We need you to say that these documents are fabrications, that you created them as part of a campaign to destabilize the government, that you are working with foreign agents to undermine our national security. You say that on camera, and this all goes away. No trial, no prison. We will even give you money, a new identity. You can start over somewhere else. Somewhere safe." "Safe," she repeated. The word felt foreign in her mouth. When was the last time she felt safe? Probably not since childhood. Probably not since before her father was arrested for being a journalist who asked too many questions. Probably not since before her mother drank herself to death trying to forget what they did to him in custody. "You know they will kill me anyway," she said. It was not a question. Kovac did not deny it. Instead, he took a sip of his coffee and looked away. "That is not my department," he said, "but I can promise you that if you do not cooperate, things will be much worse. We know about the others, the network, the safe houses, the underground press. Give us names and locations. Help us dismantle the organization. Do that and maybe you get to die with dignity instead of in pieces." Elena laughed. The sound surprised even her. It echoed off the concrete walls like breaking glass. Dignity, she said. You people would not recognize dignity if it wore a name tag and introduced itself. You talk about national security, but what you really mean is protecting your own power. You talk about stability, but what you really mean is keeping people too afraid to demand better. You talk about law and order, but the laws are written by criminals, and the order is maintained through terror. Careful, Elena Kovac warned. His voice had gone cold, hard. There it was, the real man beneath the mask of civility. You are already in enough trouble. Do not make this worse for yourself. How exactly could this be worse, she asked. She was not trying to provoke him. She genuinely wanted to know. You have arrested me 12 times in 15 years. You have broken my ribs twice. You dislocated my shoulder in 2019. You pulled out 3 of my fingernails in 2021. You killed my brother. You disappeared my best friend. You burned down the community center where I taught children to read. So please, Detective Kovac, explain to me how this could possibly be worse. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or shame. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the blank professional mask he wore like armor. We were following orders, he said, as if that explained anything. As if that excused everything. Everyone is always following orders, she said. That is what they said at Nuremberg, too. How did that work out for them? This is not the same thing, Kovac snapped. He stood abruptly, knocking his chair backward. The coffee sloshed in his cup, but he did not seem to notice. We are trying to maintain order in a country that is constantly on the brink of chaos. We are trying to protect our citizens from terrorism and foreign interference. Everything we do is for the greater good. The greater good, she echoed. And who gets to define what that means? You? The minister? The president who was not actually elected? The military generals who shoot protesters in the street and call it peacekeeping? Tell me, detective, who appointed you the arbiter of the greater good? The people elected our leaders, Kovac said, but his voice lacked conviction. They both knew it was a lie. Everyone knew. The evidence was sitting on that flash drive and on dozens of other drives hidden in safe houses across the country. The truth was out there waiting, growing, spreading like wildfire despite every attempt to contain it. Elena leaned back in her chair, ignoring the pain in her ribs. She studied Kovac carefully, really looked at him for the first time in all their years of this dance. He was not that much older than her, maybe 42 or 43. He had a wedding ring on his left hand and a photo of 2 children tucked into his badge holder. A boy and a girl, if she remembered correctly. She had seen the photo before during previous interrogations. He always had it with him, a reminder of what he was supposedly protecting. Do your children know what you do? She asked quietly. Do they know that their father spends his nights terrorizing people who want nothing more than a government that does not steal and lie and murder? Do they know that you are the monster in other children's nightmares? Kovac's jaw clenched. Leave my family out of this, he said. Why, she asked. Are they not part of this country? Are they not affected by the decisions we make, by the systems we uphold or tear down? You want me to think about the consequences of my actions, but what about yours? What legacy are you leaving them? What world are you building for them to inherit? I am building a world where they are safe, Kovac said. Where they do not have to worry about bombs or coups or foreign armies. Where they can go to school and play with their friends and grow up without fear. But they will inherit your lies, she said. They will inherit a country built on mass graves and stolen elections. They will inherit the resentment and rage of everyone you have oppressed. And when the truth finally comes out, and it always does, they will inherit the shame of knowing what their father did to maintain a system that should have been burned to the ground generations ago. The silence that followed was heavy. oppressive. Kovash stared at her with something unreadable in his eyes. Then he sat back down, picked up his coffee, took another sip, even though it must have gone cold by now. "You think you are a hero," he said finally. "You think history will remember you as some kind of martyr. But history is written by the victors, Elena, and you are not going to win. The flash drive will disappear. The documents will be dismissed as forgeries. You will be labeled a terrorist and forgotten. No one will remember your name. No one will care what you died for." "Maybe," she said. "Probably you are right. But at least I will die knowing I fought for something real." "What will you die knowing, detective? That you were really good at following orders? That you helped bad men do terrible things efficiently? Is that the legacy you want?" Before Kovac could respond, the door opened again. A younger officer stuck his head in. "The minister wants to see her," he said. "Now." Elena felt her stomach drop. The Minister of Justice. The man whose crimes she had documented so carefully. The man who had ordered the deaths of hundreds, maybe thousands. The man who would lose everything if the truth ever became public. Meeting him face to face was not good. It meant they were past the point of negotiation, past the point of deals and compromises. It meant she was probably going to die tonight. Kovac stood and gestured for her to do the same. 2 guards entered and grabbed her arms, hauling her to her feet. Her legs had gone numb from sitting so long, and she stumbled. They dragged her forward anyway. Down the hallway, up 2 flights of stairs, through corridors she had never seen before in all her previous arrests. They were going deep into the building, into the parts where there were no cameras, no witnesses, no paper trails. They stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. Mahogany, maybe. Expensive. Everything about this place screamed power and privilege. One of the guards knocked twice, and a voice from inside called for them to enter. The office was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights. Bookshelves lined 2 walls filled with leather-bound volumes that had probably never been read. A massive desk dominated the center of the room, and behind that desk sat Minister Volkov. He was smaller than she expected, older. His hair was white and thinning. His hands trembled slightly as he set down his pen. He looked like someone's grandfather. Harmless, gentle. But Elena knew better. She knew exactly what those hands had signed, what orders they had written, how much blood they had spilled. "Miss Marchesi," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Please sit." The guards pushed her into the chair and stepped back, but remained in the room. Kovac stood by the door. Volkov folded his hands on his desk and studied her with pale gray eyes. "I must say I am impressed," he began. His voice was cultured, refined, the voice of someone who had attended the best schools and been raised in privilege. 15 years you have been a thorn in our side. 15 years of protests and pamphlets and underground newspapers. And now this." His hand waved toward what she assumed was the flash drive. "Quite the achievement. You should be proud." "Is this where you offer me money?" she asked. "Or where you threaten my family? Because I should tell you my father is dead. My mother is dead. My brother is dead. Everyone I loved is already gone. You took them from me. So what exactly do you think you can threaten me with?" Volkov smiled. It was the smile of a snake. Nothing so crude as threats, he said. "I simply wanted to meet you, to understand what drives someone to throw their life away for such a futile cause, to see the face of the woman who thinks she can bring down a government with a flash drive full of documents. The truth brings down governments," she said. "Not flash drives, not documents. The truth. And you cannot kill the truth, no matter how many of us you silence." "The truth," Volkov repeated. He laughed. A dry sound like dead leaves rustling. "The truth is whatever the majority believes it to be." and the majority believes what we tell them to believe. That is how power works, Miss Marchese. Not through violence, though we have that too. Not through fear, though we use that as well. Power works through narrative. Through controlling the story people tell themselves about their country and their leaders and their place in the world. He stood and walked to the window, looked out at the city below. All those people, he said, going about their lives, working, loving, raising families. Do you know what they want? They want stability. They want to feel safe. They do not want truth. Truth is uncomfortable, destabilizing. We give them order. We give them the illusion of security. And in exchange, they let us govern however we see fit. That is not consent, Elena said. That is manipulation. Semantics, Volkov said with a wave of his hand. He turned back to face her. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to disappear. The documents will be discredited. Life will go on. In a month, no one will remember your name. In a year, the entire incident will be forgotten. That is how this works. That is how it has always worked. Except it will not, Elena said, because there are copies, dozens of them, hundreds, hidden all over the country. Every journalist, every human rights organization, every foreign embassy, they all have the files. You can kill me, but you cannot kill the truth. Not anymore. For the first time, she saw genuine anger flash across Volkov's face. Then we will kill all of them too, he said quietly. However many it takes. We have done it before. We can do it again. And that, she said, is why you will lose. Because systems built on murder and fear cannot last forever. Because eventually the weight of all those bodies becomes too heavy. Because truth has a way of surviving, even when the people who speak it do not. Volkov stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded to the guards. Take her away, he said. Make it look like suicide. As they dragged her toward the door, Elena felt strange calm wash over her. She had known this was how it would end. Had known from the moment she decided to gather those documents that she was signing her own death warrant. But she had done it anyway. Because some things mattered more than survival. Because silence in the face of atrocity was its own kind of death. Wait, she said. The guards stopped. Volkov looked at her with raised eyebrows. I want you to know something, she said. I want you to know that I pity you. Volkov laughed. You pity me? Yes, she said. Because I am about to die, and I am not afraid. But you are going to live, and you will spend every day in fear. Fear that the truth will catch up with you. Fear that history will judge you. Fear that one day someone will do to you what you have done to so many others. I get to die with dignity. You have to live with shame. So yes, I pity you. The guards pulled her from the room before Volkov could respond. They took her down to the basement, to a cell with no cameras, no windows, just concrete and silence and the smell of old death. They left her there alone. Elena sat on the floor and closed her eyes. Outside, somewhere, the sun was rising. A new day was beginning. People were waking up, going to work, living their lives. And somewhere in those crowds were others like her. Others who had the documents. Others who were ready to fight. Others who understood that truth was worth dying for. She smiled. Let them come. Let them try to erase her. The truth would survive. It always did. And that was enough.